11 p.m. and these are today's news. President of the Republic sends a message on the occasion of the National Day of the Shaheed, during which he recalled the values and principles of the nation, remembering and commemorating this date with respect for the sacrifices and ordeals endured by those who sacrificed their lives for Algeria. Following last night's deadly accident that caused the death of one supporter, President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune extends his sincere condolences to the family of the late and expressed his deep feelings of compassion while wishing speedy recovery to the injured supporters of the USM Annaba football team in his social media account. In his capacity as representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, reiterated the position of Algeria concerning several international and continental issues at the 37th session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union in Addis Ababa. The situation of Palestinian prisoners in the jails of the Zionist entity is worsening. They are facing difficult detention conditions. Many detainees are subject to administrative punishment without trial, a flagrant violation of human rights. Well, welcome back. We start off with this message of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, on the occasion of the National Day of the Shaheed, the full text of which is the following. My dear citizens, as we celebrate the National Days immortalizing our glorious liberation revolution, we are overwhelmed with the feelings of pride to belong to Algeria. On this National Martyrs' Day, we recall with respect the sacrifices and throes endured by those who devoted themselves to right the nation's glory in the country's valleys and mountains. Our valiant martyrs and mujahideen whose heroic deeds elevated them to the highest ranks and made Algeria's glory our source of pride and inspiration. Their timeless message protects the united Algeria and strengthens our national consciousness. Our valiant ancestors raised the flame of revolution to defy the colonial invaders and guided us to victory. We commemorate this blessed day in the full knowledge that Algeria is moving towards a promising future forged by the sacrifices of our martyrs. We are aware of the challenges that await us, but we are determined to face them together, building on our past achievements. Economically, we have overcome difficulties and put in place policies that strengthen our competitive position. Socially, we have improved living standards and preserved the dignity of our citizen. On the international scene, Algeria is recognized for reliability and its commitment to peace and cooperation. As we move towards a better future, we pay tribute to our martyrs and express our gratitude to our war veterans. Long live Algeria. Glory to our valiant martyrs. Following last night's deadly accident that caused the death of one supporter, President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune extended his sincere condolences to the family of the late and expressed his deep feelings of compassion while wishing speedy recovery to the injured supporters of the USM Annaba football team in his social media account. More details about this accident, as one supporter died and 52 others were injured in a pile-up between a bus carrying USM Annaba supporters and 7 passenger vehicles in Constantine province. 41 people were transported by civil protections ambulances, while 11 others were evacuated by ambulances from the emergency medical service. The bus was carrying fans attending their team's game against HB Shalom Al-Eid, but the heavy rainfall in the province, in addition to the danger of Al-Mniaz downhill, could be the cause of the accident. An investigation has been opened by the local security services to determine the exact circumstances of the accident. The proceedings of the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union kicked off today's morning in Addis Ababa with the participation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, in his capacity as representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. It is an ordinary session of the African Union held under the theme of Educate and Skill Africa for the 21st Century, building resilient education systems for increased access to inclusive, lifelong, quality and relevant learning in Africa. A number of regional and international issues will be tackled in this session, including the Palestinian cause and developments in the security situation in Africa, as well as institutional reform for the African Union, the implementation of the 2063 agenda and the activation of the African Standby Force. Attaf, and during the speech concerning peace and security in Africa, conveyed the greetings of the President of the Republic to the Mauritanian President on the occasion of his election as President of the 37th session of the African Union, stressing that the security and political scene on the African continent imposes major challenges, especially those related to the issue of decolonization. Let's have a listen.
تؤكد الجزائر تحت قيادة الرئيس عبد المجيد تبون.
Algeria, under the aegis of the President of the Republic, reaffirms its commitment to continue its full involvement as an active party in the collective efforts aimed at formulating and activating African solutions to African problems. And this is a commitment that my country also embodies through its current term in the Security Council. It seeks and will continue to strive to defend the priorities of our continent, its just causes and its legitimate and purposeful aspirations in every way, with honesty, sincerity and loyalty.
Amid the meeting of the Commission of the 10 countries of the African Union concerned with the reform of the Security Council, Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, reiterated Algeria's readiness to contribute faithfully to the collective effort to gather greater support for the common African position, while calling to present comprehensive, balanced and integrated draft reform for this UN institution. Ahmed Attaf began his speech by greeting the participants on behalf of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and in particular the President of Sierra Leone for his successful presidency of the proceedings of this commission. Attaf had also congratulated on behalf of the President of the Republic the President of Equatorial Guinea for the success of this proceedings of the 6th summit of the 10 member countries of this Commission held last November.
تطلع الجزائر إلى استضافة الاجتماع الوزاري الثاني عشر.
Algeria looks forward to host the 12th ministerial meeting of the Committee of the 10 held next June in Algiers as a renewed opportunity to evaluate the negotiating path and intensify our work strategy in accordance with the developments that can be recorded in the context of renewed international interest in the issue of the Security Council reform.
التي يمكن أن يتم تسجيلها في سياق تجدد الاهتمام الدولي.
In his capacity as a representative of the President of the Republic, the Minister of Foreign Affairs has participated today as well in Addis Ababa in the proceedings of the African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change Commission held on the sidelines of the 37th Ordinary Session of the African Union Summit. The meeting was devoted to discussing ways to continue coordinating and unifying African efforts within the framework of international negotiations on climate change and environmental issues in order to ensure the adoption of an approach that would respond to the African countries' needs and requirements for their development. On the sidelines of his participation in the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union, the Minister, Ahmed Attaf, was received by the head of the Tunisian government, Ahmed El-Hashani. The meeting was an opportunity to review the outstanding relations and cooperation between the two brotherly countries and hail the progress witnessed in the bilateral relations as an embodiment to the instructions of the President Abdelmajid Tebboune and the President Qais Said. The Ministry of Mujahideen and Right Holders, and in coordination with the National Organization of the Children of Martyrs, organized today in Algiers a historic event to mark the National Day of the Shaheed and the 35th anniversary of the creation of this organization, held under the slogan of A New Era on the Way of the Shaheed, organized at the International Center of Conferences Abdel Latif Rahal The ceremony was attended by ministers and the advisor to the President of the Republic in charge of defense and security affairs, as well as leaders of civil society bodies and organizations, members of parliament, representatives of the revolutionary family, national and historical personalities, and children of martyrs. In France, the Algerian community gathered to celebrate the National Day of Martyrs to transmit our glorious independence.
In an event organized by the cultural association Mémoire Falan, the Algerian community in France have paid a tribute to the Algerian martyrs on the occasion of February 18th, the Martyrs' Day.
The Algerians who live and were born in France know about this day, but not a lot about its history, and offering information about is the cultural association's role.
We are proud of this day where we celebrate our Martyrs' Day, those great warriors who sacrificed their lives and obtained our country's liberation.
The young people want to know more about their history details transmitted by the elderly who live here in France.
On this Martyrs' Day Eve and on a community radio channel, the cousin of the youngest Algerian martyr in France, Fatima Bedar, discussed the importance of transmitting the national independence history, including October 17th, 1961 incident. The recognition of our history, our martyrs' fight and sacrifices is necessary. Our people have been strong all along their history. They suffered colonization and fought it, and knowing that has a huge effect on the upcoming generations. The commemoration of this National Day is also called on by the Algerian celebrities on the national territory and abroad.
الجزائر انت حبي ديما ساكنه في قلبي عجبتني بزاف الانيشيتيف تاع لا جورني تاع يوم الشهيد كون فا فيتي ان شاء الله لو 18 février à 14h.
The High Council of Youth organized today in one province in coordination with the Great Mosque of Paris a caravan for Algerians as part of the commemoration of the National Shahid Day. Yes, Hamdi.
More effort towards the Algerian community abroad in order to achieve their total integration and maintain a permanent contact. These are the main objectives of this caravan.
We presented concrete projects that will suggest to the High Council of Youth. We hope to see these initiatives in the report of the Council. I am here to make contact with the Algerians living in Algeria and those living abroad. We meet every month in London to consolidate our cooperation and exchanges. We want to create companies and launch projects, and we need the feedback.
The caravan continued its tour and visited several touristic places in Oran.
This activity is part of the recommendations of the President of the Republic, who asked for the intensification of the cooperation between the Algerians.
This visit is a perfect occasion to consolidate the relation between the Algerians living abroad and their motherland.
A couple of weeks separate us from the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. This summit presents an opportunity to assess the current global situation for the gas field in light of the recent developments.
The energy challenges and shaping the future of the natural gas industry as a clean and reliable resource are pressing questions that will be addressed at the 7th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, scheduled to be held in Algiers from February 29th until March 3rd. This summit, which brings together 12 fully fledged member countries and 7 observers controlling 70% of the world's gas reserves, is among the most important international energy organizations. Among the challenges facing the participants is defining a mechanism to ensure price stability for gas in a context marked by the global crisis. There is a discussion about establishing common regulations to defend the interests of gas producers and exporters. Algeria can play an important role in this area, especially as it is a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. Thanks to its geographical position and significant gas reserves, Algeria, which represents a regional energy hub and a strategic supplier for Europe, will leverage its ways to achieve consensus among foreign members, particularly regarding the nature of contracts and price stability in the international market.
Le rôle que joue l'Algérie au sein de ce forum.
Algeria's role in this forum is crucial as it is the largest gas producer in Africa and a major supplier of gas, especially to European countries via the pipelines. Algeria was also the first country to build a liquefied natural gas plant, delivering gas to Italy and other destinations inside and outside of Europe. At a time when natural gas is increasingly sought after a crucial energy resource for socio-economic development, this forum is seen as an opportunity to strengthen the sovereignty of the gas exporting countries called upon to work together to defend their interests.
The situation of Palestinian prisoners in the jails of the Zionist entity is worsening. They are facing difficult detention conditions. Many detainees are subject to administrative punishment without trial, a flagrant violation of human rights, while the international community continues to demand the release of Palestinian prisoners. More details with Lani.
These Palestinian prisoners share their experiences of imprisonment and detention, testimonies that reveal the injustice that they suffered within their families in an oppressive prison system. Since October 7th, we have been confronted with very difficult conditions of detention. We have been confined in cells, subjected to repression, sprayed with gas. They also confiscated all our belongings, removed the kitchen tools, cut off the electricity and water. We were mistreated and beaten. Moreover, drinking water is a critical problem with bad water quality. There are even chemicals in the water which makes it undrinkable and dangerous for the health. The situation of men prisoners is even worse than that of women. After October 7th, the Zionist entity banned all visits, further worsening the already difficult detention conditions. The majority of detainees are subject to a period of administrative detention, a flagrant violation of human rights.
Today, more than 8,000 Palestinians have been arrested since October the 7th. Among them, there are thousands of detainees from the Gaza Strip whose files are not examined. The prisons of the Zionist entity are the theater executions and a repressive policy against detainees. All privileges granted to Palestinian detainees before October 7th were withdrawn.
We were detained in a women's prison called Damoun. We were starving. The little food provided was insufficient and of a poor quality. We struggled to meet our basic needs to survive.
Since October 7th, the Palestinian prisoners have been held in terrible conditions, cut off from outside world. Many prisoners are currently suffering very heavy sentences ranging from 20 to 40 years of prison, and this is a flagrant violation of human rights.
Morocco is currently facing a major challenge within its security and military forces, and soldiers and officers quit their jobs in protest against some government policies. This wave highlights the growing tensions related to the normalization of the relations with the Zionist entity and the ongoing social justice in the country.
It is no secret. The Makhzen is on the verge of an unprecedented social explosion, which speaks volumes about the plight in which millions of Moroccans live. This time, it is two institutions, not the least, that are expressing their frustration with the degradation of their situation: the army and the police services. These two bodies are facing a wave of desertions by the soldiers and officers, reflecting deep discontent within these institutions. These deserters reject the social injustice that persists in their country and express their opposition to the army's involvement in certain policies, notably the normalization of relations with the Zionist entity. They are questioning the legitimacy of this alliance and refuse to participate in actions they deem contrary to their beliefs. The spread of corruption and abuse of power within institutions, including the security and military forces, has sparked growing discontent among soldiers and officers. Cases of desertion involving hundreds of soldiers have been observed, prompting the military institution to tighten disciplinary measures. However, this approach has fueled anger due to the inequality in the application of rules, triggering significant protest and widespread discontent. And in response, the king and the military institution have dismissed a group of officers for their political opinions. These desertions come against a backdrop of an economic and financial crisis in Morocco, exacerbated by significant external debt, a crisis that has had a significant repercussion on the daily lives of citizens, with a decrease in purchasing power and growing social inequalities. The country is facing scourges related to corruption, drug trafficking and land grabbing, with involvement reaching into the highest echelons of powers. The country is facing a critical situation, aggravated by the absence of the monarch, leaving the country in political and social uncertainty. The desertion from the ranks of the army and the police reflects a chaos within the Moroccan society, where corruption, social injustice and other government policies lead into widespread discontent at all levels.
In Western Sahara, several Sahrawi regions are being bombed by the Moroccan occupation forces, and the Mahsen keeps plundering the natural resources and the properties of the Sahrawi people. As a result, families are becoming homeless. Yasin Hamdi.
These are the screams of distress and despair that reflect the dismay of a Sahrawi family who became within seconds homeless. Their home was totally destroyed and set to fire by the Moroccan invader. Forcibly displaced, the Sahrawi civilians are also suffering from the confiscation of their properties, another violation of human rights and the international law in the occupied Laayoune. In its expansionist policy, the Mahsen refuses all the peaceful solutions and continues the destruction of the Sahrawi environment and the cultural patrimony.
The Moroccan occupation forces keep targeting the Sahrawi civilians and bombing the regions of Amotrik, Tfarit and Al-Mahbis. They also oppress the gatherings of the Sahrawi civilians. The camp of Qdim al-Zik is attacked by the Mahsen army. Several houses were destroyed and others were seized. It's unacceptable. These people live here for more than a decade. Then the Mahsen comes suddenly and takes all their belongings and destroys their houses. It's unacceptable. How can they do this? I saw camps set to fire and families crying and calling for help. It's sad and inhumane.
The Sahrawi people continues its quest for independence. A call to the international justice was launched, thus denouncing the cruel crimes committed by the occupation forces, a situation that persists in the indifference of the international community.
In a case shocking Morocco, Mohamed Zian, former president of the Rabat district and the Minister of Human Rights, is currently behind prison due to his political views. Since last February 15th, he began a hunger strike to protest against the unfair trials, the false accusations, and the inhuman treatment inflicted on him. More details with Rania Bahri.
In a flagrant press release, the family of Mohamed Zian expressed its deep concern about the health of this human rights activist, emphasizing the risks he faces following the severe heart attack of which he suffered last week. In a gesture of unfailing solidarity, this lawyer demonstrated Mohamed Zian's determination to continue his fight for justice despite the dangers on his life. All our support for political prisoner Mohamed Zian, who is on hunger strike since February 15, 2024, in a protest against the prosecutions and the malicious accusations brought against him. He was sentenced to 3 years, which was not enough for them. They added other criminal proceedings to him. This arbitrary arrest is due to his political positions. He criticized the regime by calling for the return return of the wealth and given the truth by their practices, by his political speeches, by exposing what they call the holders of occult power. And the straw that broke the Commons' back is his last article published in his name on one of the Spanish magazines, in which he addressed the Mahsen regime by asking to restore their dignity and their violated rights to the Moroccan people. How will Morocco chair the Human Rights Committee while it didn't watch over the rights of its people nor ensure their freedom and dignity? Today I'm launching a humanitarian appeal to save the life of Mohamed Zian before it's too late, and continue asking the symbols of corruption who plundered the wealth and destroyed the country. Through this voice, an entire people demands justice and dignity, a humanitarian appeal of despair calling on the authorities to act before it's too late. In the face of oppression and injustice, the struggle becomes the symbol of universal quest for freedom. The streets of Derb el-Kbir are testifying to a mobilization towards the Palestinian cause and the unanimous condemnation of the acts of violence perpetrated against Mohamed Zian and the sufferance of free Moroccans in quest for dignity in their country.
All right, that was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.